What if I were to tell you that listening to birdsong could revolutionize your life, improving your health, increasing your ability to concentrate, deepening your sense of connection to the wider world, and even improving relationships with loved ones? Well, I can. But first, I'd like to take you on a journey to this place in another time, before this building was here, before this city was even here. So sit back and close your eyes. We're going back long, long ago to when this place was forest and the air was filled with the magical sound of birds. This is your home. You are sitting on the forest floor, leaning back against a tree, breathing in the smells of rich, damp forest soil. Sunlight shimmers gold between the trees, and around you, all you can see are more trees and small glimpses of forest floor. Because you can't see very far, you listen intently, reaching out with your ears as far as you possibly can in all directions, listening for changes in birdsong so that you know what to expect. You know these birds. You know their song. You know where different birds hang out. The chattering of starlings might let you know where a delicious fruit is available. The calling of crows might tell you where there's a dead animal that will attract scavengers that you could hunt. Sudden silence tells you that a predator approaches. These birds are an extension of you and your senses, giving you a greater understanding of what is going on in the world beyond your ordinary perception. They are the bringers of news. Okay, so you can open your eyes again now, and we're going to zoom forwards in time into this room and contrast that image with today, where the bringer of news is certainly not the birds, but an endless stream of disaster, on and on and on and on. Today, the sounds that surround us are layers upon layers of humming, whining, roaring, beeping, bleeping as our fridges, phones, fans, computers, lorries, cars, buses, planes, and leaf blowers create our daily soundtrack. What a contrast. And although for all of us here today, we've been born into this as being normal, it is really only a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of time compared to our evolution with birdsong. For millions of years, we have evolved actively listening to the birds for information about the world around us, for our survival. We don't need to listen to today's noise to survive. So rather than reaching out with our ears, we shut our senses down, trying to block it out. The World Health Organization says that 8 million people in Europe have their sleep seriously disturbed by noise every night. And studies show that a noisy environment increases stress levels, raises the heart rate, raises the blood pressure, and in some people leads to heart attacks and strokes. In fact, it is estimated that 210,000 people die every year in Europe from long-term exposure to traffic noise. But it's not just noise that causes stress. On top of this, we have the enormous pressures of society, how to fit in, how to succeed, how to be popular. And beneath this, we have the constant nagging undercurrent of the daily news of all that's going wrong in the world. In 1988, I was 18, and I left school gladly and with great relief, where I did not fit in, was not popular, and did not succeed. And I ran off with my friends to live in the woods. We built simple shelters from the bendy stems of hazel covered with tarpaulins. And for those gorgeous summer months, sleeping on the earth in the forest, it changed me. I realised now that I had never spent so much time just being in nature before. And it awoke within me a desire to learn more, to understand more, to deepen my connection with nature. So I found ways to live simply until one day I became pregnant with our first child, and in that moment, having our own indoor toilet and running water became higher priorities. So suddenly there we were. I'm a young mum, little boy, baby girl in my arms. The lorries are thundering past, shaking and darkening our rented house. In the shop next door, horrendous headlines on all the newspapers are perfectly laid out at the height for a small child learning to read. And the pressures to conform and fit into school are looming on the horizon, and I am yearning to be back in the woods. I feel as if I'm being held captive by all the ways in which I'm supposed to fit in, and I can't do it. I'm absolutely longing to bring up my children in nature so they can learn the news from the birds, not the TV. So while my husband's at while my husband is at work, I sow a yurt. I vividly imagine the life that I want for my children. And I study a book about eco-villages throughout Europe. After a year, the yurt is complete. We give away everything but the bare essentials and leave. So that was 13 years ago, and through many weathers and close to many creatures, we have lived, and this is our current yurt. A yurt only has very thin canvas walls, and we hear the sounds of nature day and night. I have felt so nurtured by these sounds, this audio version of the cycles of nature, that I wanted to share them with others. So I started recording a podcast of nature sounds throughout the year. I go into the forest. The birds are singing their hearts out. I get out my recording equipment. The birds that I can't see but can see me will stop singing as they watch what I do. They are watching so closely all the time. Have you ever watched a bird soaring in the sky and wished to be that bird with the freedom to fly, carried by the warm air currents and able to see life from such a perspective? Throughout the world and throughout ages, birds have long been symbols of power and freedom. In myth and legend, birds link the human world to the divine or supernatural realms beyond the ordinary experience. Why is it that we have developed such magical associations with birds? Why is it that so many of us love to feed them in our gardens? Is it because of our long and intimate evolution with them that there is a part of us that responds to and respects what it is they have to say. Eleanor Radcliffe of Surrey University says that people find birdsong relaxing and reassuring because for millions of years we have evolved actively listening to the birds. It's when they stop singing that we need to worry. She says that people find sounds of nature help them recover from stress. The cost of people suffering from stress in the European Union every year is 170 billion euros. That is a lot of stress. And birdsong can help with that. Just listen to the contrast in these pieces of research, where Graham Davey of Sussex University says that listening to the news not only increases levels of stress about the world in general, but also exacerbates personal worries. Whereas Brighton and Sussex Medical School say that listening to birdsong actively rewires the brain, reducing the blood pressure, lowering the heart rate, reducing stress, and improving our mood. Or this, where Deepak Prasha, an audiologist from the University College in London, says that exposure to noise leads to diminished productivity and impaired learning. Whereas Glyndŵr University in Wales say that exposure to birdsong leads to being more alert and better able to concentrate. But this one is my favourite. The Royal Society for National Health say that 88% of teenagers suffer stress from needing to look good on social media. Whereas professors from the University of Rochester say that listening to birdsong actively encourages individuals to follow their own interests and reduces the pressures of societal expectations. They also discovered that participants who were exposed to natural sounds showed a deeper connection to the world around them compared to those exposed to modern noise. This affected not only the way they felt about the environment and other people, but it even affected the way they behaved. The humble bird. Our long-time partner in evolution can provide a doorway from the many challenges of modern life to another experience entirely. So, what can we do about all this in our modern lives? Well, we can make significant differences to levels of stress, the ability to concentrate, a deeper sense of belonging to the world, and improved relationships with others, just by listening to recordings of birdsong in the home, the office, the car, the classroom. But really, I want to encourage you to go further, to stretch out your ears once again and listen to the birds near you. Every day in your daily routine, there is a bird watching you. She is in her usual territory, maybe in a tree outside your house, your office, the classroom, or maybe in a park where you walk, or by this river here, or outside a cafe where you eat, singing her song. We can start to become familiar with the sound of a particular bird in a particular area. The Kalahari Bushmen say that when we notice a certain animal, its song or its track, a thin thread is created between us. As we notice again and again and again this same animal, this thread gets thicker and stronger, creating a link between us and the wider world. So I ask you now to close your eyes once again, and this time we're going to go forwards in time to tomorrow morning. And I hope this will be the right recording. So use your imagination to see yourself tomorrow morning in your morning routine, doing whatever it is you do, being wherever it is you be. And see a little bird there with you, hopping along, following you around, watching what you do, singing its song with a message to you. Do you see it? Make it vivid, make it big. Imprint this image onto your mind. Okay, you can open your eyes again now. I suggest this to you so that tomorrow morning this image will come to your mind and you will be inspired to listen out for the birds near you and encourage your children to do the same, strengthening your thread of connection with Earth. We live in challenging times, and listening to birdsong can reawaken the ancient knowing that we all have inside us, that we are part of nature, changing the way that we behave as individuals, as a culture, and as world creators, so that ultimately we create a world where everybody wins. Thank you.